All right, everyone, we are here back on the ham and turkey video going up on YouTube. I am excited to tell you guys that this will be the first Bills podcast that I am doing with my boy Eddie J, one of my
Yes, sir.
coworkers. You know, he's pretty knowledgeable about the Bills. I call him a Bills super fan, but he can't earn that title until he watches the
Oh,
Great
come
Balls
on.
of Buffalo. Still ain't watched it. So until he watches that, he'll get Bills fanatic. He don't get super fan
That's
yet.
fair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So before we start, I just want to let everyone know that first and foremost, I am a football junkie, and that is what I live my life for. I do football all the time. I work for Pro Football Focus on a part-time basis, and I also run the Pro Football Focus Bills Twitter. So all that content that goes out on that is posted by me. Now, I want to also say, as a disclaimer, that this podcast, The Ham and Turkey, has absolutely nothing to do with PFF and is not associated any way with PFF. These are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. Although I will be spitting PFF facts and PFF boards and PFF grades and things of that nature, this podcast has absolutely nothing to do with PFF. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into it and we're going to talk Bills football. So if you were on the Bills PFF page today, I put a mock draft out. I don't even remember what the mock draft. I'm about to pull it up myself. I put out a Bills mock draft. Now, obviously, this mock draft is very far-fetched, and it probably wouldn't even shake out this way. But it was just nice to sit around and dream of what it could be. So
Very true.
Right. So, Eddie, I want you to talk to them about your thoughts about this mock draft when you first saw it.
So when I first saw it, the first thought that came to my head was Chasen at 54. Like
Probably not gonna happen.
Probably not gonna happen. I feel like he'll get taken first round, even if he might not be exactly first round talent.
Yeah.
I think he's first round talent, but I don't know if he's like you take him in the first round ahead of other people. The second thing that came to my head was, of course, there's a trade with Buffalo and Carolina. you know, Bean and McDermott are gonna try and get something with them. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, I'm not big on college football, so I don't know a lot of names, but I know a lot of names that you and me have been talking about, and I've seen on Twitter and stuff like that. And Dylan's someone that you brought to mind for me, and so I think him and Thaddeus Moss, and as our last two picks, would be a gold. More or less a gold mine. But I do like Cam Akers at 113. But I mean, like I said, I don't think Chasen's going to be available at 54, and I don't think that even if he is available, I don't know if you take him if Jonathan Taylor or someone of that caliber is available.
Yeah, and see the thing, this was my mindset going into the draft. So in PFF's mock draft, you can make trades, obviously, and it'll go through no matter what. But my thinking was like the Bills signed a lot of players in the offseason, Addison, Butler, all the Carolina players. Yep. They signed all these players in the offseason. So getting this many players in the draft is probably not going to happen. But
yeah,
everyone keeps saying that the Bills' biggest need is edge rusher. And I don't think it's as big a need as everyone's making it out to be. But if K'Lavon Chaisson is there picking at 54, I really don't see how you pass him up. Because first of all, already got the LSU connection with Trey. So they have a history of hitting on LSU players. He can rush the passer. He has all the physical traits and physical tools. The only knock that they really have on him is he isn't a polished pass rusher. Mm-hmm. And really, I've only seen one polished, like super polished pass rusher in his draft, and the Bills could also get him too, which is Curtis Weaver. As much as I was bashing him, he is a polished pass rusher. He uses his hands well. He has a pass rush plan, but Chaisson is more athletically gifted than Weaver, than Curtis Weaver is. So that's why I think he'd be a good project from the Bills, because I think he could probably start in time behind Trent Murphy if they don't cut him.
Yeah, which that's been something that you and me have been talking about a lot. Yeah. We want to see Trent Murphy get the boot. I mean, you don't want to see people get the boot, but to save us some cap space, and he hasn't he's like we talked about during the season.
He's gonna
It's
save
not,
us 5.8, bro. We need to make that axe.
right.
I'm sorry.
But and it's like we were talking about it during the season. When is there a time where you're sitting there and you go, wow, Trent Murphy just made a play?
Exactly. Like when does he pop
I
off
mean,
the tape? Exactly.
right. And with Shaq Lawson, you can argue that happened a few times, but I feel like one thing with him and Jordan Phillips, going like a little bit off topic with it, is that like the plays that they made and the amount of sacks that they had and stuff like that, it was a lot that they just got through at the right time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had that timing down. It wasn't necessarily like they were making good moves on the ball. They were just getting in and through people. Yeah. And I think with Chasen, if I agree, like, yeah, if he's available, go for it. But when you have those vets on the team, Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, and Jefferson, even, like, you have these people that can teach him and that can help him improve his game.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like it'd be a perfect spot for him to land because of the LSU connection with Trey White and all that experience that's at that position right now. We don't have anybody younger besides Daryl Johnson that's at that edge rusher.
Exactly, and that's what PFF put out an article. I think it was a couple of days ago. They said what was the best and worst moves, and they were like the move of signing Mario Addison to I think a 3-year deal at age 32. I think he is.
That for $34 million too.
Yeah, at 32, it's just like that's a lot to invest in an edge rusher that's 30 plus. So like you said, now if they drafted Chason or even Curtis Weaver, they wouldn't have to be relied upon to contribute right away. They could sit and learn. And this is all hinged on them cutting Trent Murphy, which it doesn't look like they're going to do. But
yeah,
I would hope that they would invest in an edge rusher at some point in the draft, even if it's because I got Alex Highsmith going. Was that with another pick? And Alex Highsmith is an edge rusher from Charlotte.
Yeah,
and
128.
Not a lot of people know who Alex Highsmith is, but I mean, he has a lot of tools to be. He's like physically gifted. He's not like he wasn't like super productive, but he's physically gifted, and that's good. You can get physically gifted guys because then you can mold them the way you want them. You can mold them in your system, and so I think in the third round for the Bills, I think that would be a good pick for them. Also, like if they can just get stout at edge rusher, I would be fine because as we discussed at work, they have a top 8 roster, so they're in a position in the draft now where they can just take the best players available at each position.
Oh yeah. And I think that a big thing that a lot of people were saying was like, oh, well, I saw a lot of mock drafts where they were taking a cornerback or a D-back in the first round, or in our first pick, and I'm like, well, with the depth that we have right now, I feel comfortable with where we're at, but at the same time, I get wanting to add an extra talent because once again, it's not like it's a super young position outside of Teron Johnson and Trey White. Yeah. You got Josh Norman who's pushing. I think he's pushing towards 30.
No, he is 30.
He is 30?
No, he is 30.
And I think – and then Trey White's, 22, 23? About to enter his contract year. He's around mid-20s. And then Levi Wallace is somewhere around the same age as Trey White. But, I think going back to, like, the whole talk about physically gifted guys and turning them into IQ athletes, you see the perfect example of that is Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah,
he was 19. He got drafted in at 19, and he's turned into obviously a Pro Bowler last season, but a very physically gifted guy.
We need the IQ to get to where it needs to be. That's what we need, and we need him to stop missing tackles. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Then, I want to speak a little bit about the running back position. So I had with their next pick 113. Again, this is on the PFF Bills page. It is the mock draft
on Twitter.
All right, and I put out at pick 113. I have the Bills taking running back from Florida State, Cam Akers, and this is Cam Akers' draft profile. It says Akers has a physical profile that tends to succeed in the NFL. He also he's used to running behind rough offensive lines. You may be getting a close imitation to the top backs in the class at a much lower price. That sounds like the Bills to a T. If they can get a high-end running back low in the draft, which they can get, if they drafted Cam Akers, now obviously the Bills Mafia wants Jonathan Taylor and then guys like
Right.
that, like the upper echelon guys. But this guy right here, I don't know if anyone's out there's watched him on tape, but he is, like I said, he is physically gifted. He can catch, he can run between the tackles, and he has speed to burn. Had a 79.2 grade, so he can run. He has run between the tackles. He's an efficient, good runner. I think he'd be a perfect fit next to Devin Singletary. And the only issue I have with it is the pick. I like the pick, and I hate it just because Cam Akers is one of those backs that with time could start over Devin Singletary because he's more physically gifted than Devin Singletary.
But I think that at the same time, with how they would be using him, it almost would seem like kind of what happened last year. Right? Frank Gore starts that first X amount of weeks of the season, then Devin Singletary, you start to see him shine. And I think it was that Philly game is when he really started to break out. And
he broke out in the preseason. Takes over.
Yeah, I mean, and even that, they just kind of – I feel like they were kind of giving him a time to become more seasoned behind Frank Gore. But I think that even though he could start over that – take over that starting role, at the same time, they might just keep it more balanced and say, we have a really good 1-2 punch. We don't want to overuse one and not be using enough of the other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is something that started to happen a little bit more with certain aspects. Like I've seen Buffalo do it a ton of times over the years. But yeah, and I think even with A.J. Dillon too, down there at 188, that's another guy that has the ability to come out there and really show that he can do what he can do. I mean, when you brought up the both of them to me and I watched their highlights from last year and just some of their, better plays, it was like, okay, why haven't I seen this guy before? You know what I mean? They're really physical runners, but at the same time, they got footwork and they can make moves and they can make plays. And that's not something you see too much. Yeah. And I think another thing is, like, they talk about all this year, they've been talking about how deep of a wide receiver class this is. Yeah. I think that obviously not exactly the same, but I think you can argue somewhat the same for the running backs. It's not a running back heavy draft, but the quality of the running backs in the draft are very good.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree 100%. Even like if I'm looking down here, looking at the top guys, so you got Zach Moss, DeAndre Swift. This is PFF's dart. This is PFF's big board. So they got DeAndre Swift as the number one back, and then Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, and then this guy named Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt. Now, any of these top 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't think DeAndre Swift's going to be there by the time the Bills are ready to take a running back. No. And then Zach Moss, they just had a report out that said his knee is fine. I'm not trying to mess with that. I mean, he probably is. He broke the most tackles in college football this year for a running back, and he had the highest run grade, overall offensive grade for any running back in college football this year. So, I mean, he is a good back, but if I'm going to take you high in the draft, especially a running back that only has a 3-year lifespan, I need you to be fully healthy. That's just my opinion. I need you to be fully healthy. And so and then on top of that, I want a running back for the Bills anyway, that's going to be able to work with Devin Singletary. And if you get any of these top guys, like DeAndre Swift, he's probably going to end up starting. You know what I mean? Like starting and be like a Todd Gurley type back where he's going to start like all 3 downs. And then it's like, why do we have Devin Singletary?
And I mean, if say, you take someone like Zach Moss and then you get the exact situation with Todd Gurley. He takes over. And what you see what happens. He gets a knee injury. And it's been haunting him since. And then he gets cut by LA, and now he's at Atlanta on a prove yourself deal. And it's like that's when you start to see, like, you don't want to take that risk on somebody that's already had a previous existing injury, especially when it's a knee injury. Yeah. And then it not turn out how you want, especially if you're going to take him a little bit earlier. Given you could probably take Zach Moss 4th, maybe 5th if he slides that much because of the knee injury, even if they say it's completely fine.
Yeah. I feel like that has slide written all over it, and he'll be there for the Bills. For sure. And they're like, think about taking him, but I want them to take Cam Akers or Jonathan Taylor. Those are the 2 running backs I am set on them taking. Please.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna take a running back early, it's got to be one of those 2 guys in the second round, because DeAndre Swift. I don't think he's going to be a first-round value guy, because I feel like there's going to be a lot more guys in that first 32. I mean, the wide receiver class, and especially with the very short amount of good offensive linemen that are in this draft. Yep. I think that you're going to see a lot of offensive positions being taken very early, and then those few like elite defensive guys like Isaiah Simmons and I think AJ Epinenza is the guy they've been talking about for the first round too. So
Yeah.
you're not going to see DeAndre Swift slip out of the first probably like 40, 50 picks.
Yeah.
So unless they really see something in Swift that they really want to go for, but even at that rate, I feel like Jonathan Taylor is the better pick at that time, just
Listen,
for what
man,
we're looking for in a running back. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Jonathan Taylor been doing it for a long time, man. He's been doing it. He's a junior. He's been doing it for 3 years. And every year he's been in college football, they talk about him every single year, being a consistent back, rushing for over 1,200 yards. Especially playing behind Wisconsin's line. They got a center in the draft right now. You know what I mean? That's going to be a 1 through 3 third round pick. So, I mean, but Jonathan Taylor, man, he is definitely legit. So if they take Taylor or Cam Akers, I will be ecstatic. And to segue into what we were talking about at work that we couldn't finish.
Okay.
So we had there was a report that said that the Saints would be willing to trade Alvin Kamara if they were not able to restructure a deal. And this is the last year of Alvin Kamara's rookie deal. So they will be willing to trade him because they don't want to pay him. No one's going to pay a running back a second contract unless you're taking like a tremendous discount to stay with that team.
Yeah.
So they'll be willing to trade him. Now, this is what I said to Eddie. I said, listen, Buffalo is in a prime position right now. Going back to the draft, they're in a prime position right now to draft the best players available at each position or any position they wanted. And then if you give up maybe, I'll even say maybe a third at the highest.
And that's what I was saying as well. Yeah.
Give up a third at the highest. And then you get Alvin Kamara from the Saints on a draft day trade. I don't know how you say that Buffalo doesn't have one of the top 3 or 4 offensive in the league.
And I don't know how you don't say they're immediate Super Bowl contenders. Yeah. I mean, it would be the perfect case scenario, in my opinion. I mean, because as I say perfect case scenario is you get Kamara and you give up a 4th and a 5th.
Yeah.
You somehow slip away with that 3rd round pick, but I feel like at that point, you're going to have to give up your 3rd.
Yeah.
And at most you're going to have to give up a 3rd and a 4th or a 3rd and a 5th for him, because even if they're giving him up, he's still the same guy. He's still a very big part of that offense, and he's still somebody that they want. They're going to want something for, especially on his contract here. They're not paying him, so why not get some good assets back in return? Yeah. And back to what you're saying, nobody wants to pay running backs right now.
Nobody,
because they're seeing how big the market's going up. Derrick Henry, he is the reason right now that the market is the way it's going to be the way it is. I mean, Todd Gurley kind of started to set that, but
Todd Gurley messed it up for everybody.
He did, and you're seeing like, okay, Todd Gurley had a couple great seasons. He gets paid, they dump him. There's too much risk at the running back position to be spending that much money on him.
It's just
especially with like the kind of running that Derrick Henry does.
Yeah. It's just because risky. So I've been investigating this, and as I've been working with PFF, it has allowed me to like broaden my mindset in terms of football norms. And one thing I love about PFF is it gives you football trends. And so one of the trends that they figured out or has researched is that running back success is more due to your offensive line and more than it is the running back himself. And so with that thinking, it's like I would draft a great offensive tackle before I would draft a running back, because if I have a stout offensive line, just like the Broncos used to do years ago when Mike Shanahan was there, I can literally put anybody behind this line and they can get rushed for 1,500 yards. And that's kind of the thing now. And then on top of that, running backs, they take the most beating of any position in the league. So, I mean, you only get in 3 years out of them. So why would I invest $10 million a year in a player that I'm only going to be able to use for 3 years? It makes perfect sense. And so now, I mean, you got no choice. But going back to Kamara, I did a project on Kamara actually, because someone asked me, they said, who do you think is better, Christian McCaffrey or Kamara? And so I did a project on it. So I watched them both. And here's what I figured out, why this will be very advantageous for the Bills to make this move, is because Alvin Kamara has been hurt like I think his first and second, his second and third year in the league, he's been hurt a lot, basically.
Yeah, and he had a nagging, I think it was ankle injury last year.
He did have an ankle injury last year, and so I've researched that the best way that Kamara is utilized is to split time with another back, preferably a back that's a bruiser. Because I'm not saying he can't run between the tackles. Yeah, right. I'm not saying that he can't run between the tackles. I'm just saying that he would do best with another back, and so that's why it would be great for Buffalo to trade for him because he wouldn't have to be an every down back. He can split time with Devin Singletary and kind of get out, split out, run those angle routes, run all those slot running back routes from the slot, and he can be that guy that they need. And I think this draft also, going back to the draft, that they should also just get Josh Allen weapons. I don't care what position he's at. I don't really care.
It doesn't matter. And that's why you see Thaddeus Moss back down as our last pick. Right. I mean, I mean, with a quarterback like Joe Burrow, you're going to get a lot of production out of all your guys. It's just going to be simple as that. But I mean, if you bring in someone like Thaddeus Moss, just have as that extra guy. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. You have a tight end room with Dawson Knox.
I currently don't like their tight end room at all. I don't like anybody actually. Dawson Knox got to grow.
It's too young right now, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, Dawson Knox, I like him. I like his I mean, you've seen a couple really strong run from him. Just showing that he's a straight up dog. I mean, the play against Cincinnati with the stiff arm and the lower on the shoulder, you can't, that's something you get excited about. But one of the biggest things that we were talking about constantly, the amount of drops that Dawson Knox has.
9 drops on 28 catchable passes. Yeah, 9.
You can't
drops.
Do that.
That's too much.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, did he make a few really good plays? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those drops stand out. And I think that it showed that they played him more than they played Tommy Sweeney because otherwise, I mean, it could have went either way. You would have seen either more Sweeney or more Knox, depending on who was producing more, and it just happened to be Dawson Knox. Yeah. I personally was saying that I would have liked to see Tommy Sweeney a little bit more because I did think that he showed some promise in a few different spots. He had a good he had a couple good 20, 30-yard catches in the first few games of the season. And it was, I kind of was upset they didn't play him a little bit more. And, you could see Bills Mafia was the same way about Duke Williams. I mean, you want to see him all year long. He gets the game-winning touchdown in Tennessee. You don't really see him again until the Jets game and then again in Houston. But I don't think that – I think tight end's one of those positions where we have so many. I think we have right now we have 6 tight ends on the roster because it's Jason Kroom, Tommy Sweeney, Lee Smith, Tyler Cross, Dawson Knox. So that's that's 5. But it's one of those positions right now where you're so flabbergasted at our wide receiver room that you don't think twice about the tight end room.
And the thing about it is look at both the Super Bowl teams this year. What they both have in common. One of the things they have in common.
The most elite tight ends in the league.
Right. Each team had a tight end that can do their thing with the ball, period. George Kittle was the highest graded player in the league last year. Travis Kelce was right behind him, number 2. I mean, having a big slot tight end is definitely an advantage. And although Thaddeus Moss is not like a Kelce or Kittle, there's not to say that he couldn't be that. Everyone plays a role. If you give him that role where he come in and he can just get in the slot and kill whatever slot corner he's on, I mean, I would like that. I just want to see Josh Allen have no excuses for why he can't be great, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's one of the arguments that you see. Obviously, I've been complaining about the Twitter beef with everybody against Josh Allen for the past X amount of months that I've been seeing it.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of people don't look at the drops that he has. I think he had the most drops in the league last year, something like that.
Yeah,
but so you look at it.
Dallas had the second most.
So you look at that and you're like, okay, well, now his 58% completion percentage somewhat makes a little bit more sense. But at the same time, people go after that and they're like, well, he's the least accurate quarterback in the league, blah, 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 blah. And then you look at there's just a lot of different stats that you can look at when it comes to that. But, I mean, at the same time, it's just what are his weapons at right now? What can they how can they help him make another jump in year 3? And I think the addition of Stephon Diggs is the perfect thing to make even more of a jump.
Man, listen.
I mean, I don't know how you don't have the best wide. Like, you can't argue that they don't have the best wide receiver group right now.
In terms of a trio, yes. In terms of a trio.
Yeah, in terms of a trio. Absolutely.
They do. I would say that the Bucs have the best duo wide receivers with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. That's the best duo. But as far as 1 through 3 in the slot, no question about
Buffalo, 100%.
No question. And the thing is, though, is what's great about Diggs is Diggs runs precise routes at all levels of the field that he will give Josh room for error. And so I tweeted that from my regular account, my personal account last year, and this Bills fan ripped me like, what do you mean Josh Allen has the second highest completion percentage? And I said, listen, I'm not saying that he's not accurate. I mean, but we know that's not his strength. He got more accurate this year, which is what I like to see. But when you have a great receiver, they give you more room for error. And Stephon Diggs will do that. I mean, I sent you the thing. He has 61% contested catch rate. That was number 1 in the NFL. You know what I mean? So he's going to make those tough catches. He has the jets to go deep. I mean, and he can catch anything in his area. I mean, he doesn't really have that many drops. So, I mean, Josh just needs to keep improving and keep being smarter with the football. That's his one attribute that holds him back from being a top 15 quarterback is he doesn't make good decisions, period. And he turns the ball over like a savage. That's it.
Yeah, well, the first half of the season, he turned the ball over like a savage. I agree. And the turnovers are a big margin of it. And I think that another big thing is you look at the height of his receivers that he had last year.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is somebody that you can tell he doesn't know his own arm strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the difference between him and Patrick Mahomes is Mahomes can use that.
Yeah.
He knows how to control his arm strength. He knows what he's doing with it.
It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him and Mahomes, and I'm not going to compare them by any means because Mahomes is on a different level of skill. But their arm strength is very similar. They can throw the ball very far, but Mahomes can put it on a dime.
Yes.
So Josh Allen, you look at plays where he's overthrown John Brown by a few yards, or he's gotten it just out of John Brown's reach. It's upsetting. It's annoying. It's upsetting to see because you know that he can make that throw if he's timing it better or if he's putting a little bit less power into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a few plays where you look at it and you're like, you get a receiver with a few more inches of height and they're making that catch. But you have John Brown, who's I think he's 5'10".
5'10", yep.
And then Cole Beasley's 5'8", 5'9". He's like they don't got tall guys. Their biggest guy that they had on the roster was Duke Williams, and they only played him in 4 games.
Yeah.
That's not, you can't really do that. And then when you have tight ends that are making drops like their tight ends did, once again, you're struggling when it comes to jump balls and when it comes to those upper tier catches. And that's what you bring in when you get Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm very happy with that move by Bean.
Yeah.
I don't think there was even a hesitation on that, to be honest with you. That's been something that Bills Mafia has been asking for months.
Years.
Yeah, years even, yeah.
So I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit. So I was listening to everybody in Bills Mafia knows the great Sam Monson. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows who he is. And so he was saying, and he made a great point. That's why, like, he is the one. Like I said, honestly, if you actually listen to Sam and you listen to the podcast and you listen to his dissertation about certain ideas, he definitely, like, if you listen to him, like, man, this dude know what he's talking about. Like, you will see. So one of the thoughts he brought up about this specific thing, he was saying, he was like, why would you go get Josh Allen a bigger receiver? I mean, his issue was he had the worst deep ball grade of 20-plus yards. He had the worst grade in the NFL last year. And he was like, just because you get a bigger receiver doesn't mean he's going to get more accurate. He's just going to miss a bigger target. So he has to get more accurate on the deep balls. And you saw him make a leap in his second year, and he had the highest grade of throws in
first
the
1 in 10 yards.
Range.
Yeah.
So he can make the leap. I'm not saying he can't get better because he's going to get better. This is year 3. This will be year 3, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, this will be year 3. So there's nothing to say that he couldn't get better on the deep ball. And that's all he has to do is just get better on the deep ball and keep putting in that work. You know what I mean? He can only go up. He was the worst now, so you can only do better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So
I mean, there's not gonna be much chance for him to get much worse. I mean,
yeah,
at this point in time, you're set up for success. I mean,
yeah,
you really can't ask for anything else. He's got a really good trainer with his quarterbacks coach and the quarterback coach with the team as well. I mean,
yeah.
he's got a good group of people to work with, and he's just got to be able to make that mental adjustment and be able to get that stuff down pat. And I mean, he said right at the beginning of the offseason last year, I'm going to work on my short throws. What does he do? He comes out and he's one of the better 1 to 15 yards in the league, one of the best in that range. And this year he's come out and he said, I'm going to work on the deep ball. So if he's able to make that much of an adjustment with the short passes, given the short passes are somewhat easier to make than the long passes, who's to say that he can't make that exact same change?
Or at least be middle of the pack. He don't have to be the best in the league. Just be middle of the pack. Just don't be crappy at it. At least be respectable at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that when he gets to, if he can get to that level, I don't know. I think the Josh Allen slander starts to go away because you see his accuracy gets better. I mean,
it'll go away when he start making better decisions. We've seen the talent. Like, because I want to talk about this other pick that I made, but I just get because I don't want to get because we'll talk about Josh Allen on another podcast.
Yeah,
but
we can honestly make a whole podcast
right.
Just Josh Allen. To be honest with you, we can go on for hours about him.
Exactly, but just a little sidebar. The biggest knock that even PFF, because everyone in Bills Mafia hates PFF's guts.
Yeah.
The reason his grade gets dinged so badly is because first and foremost, he makes bad decisions. And if you play football, you know, if you're a ball carrier, your primary job is to protect the football, period. So everybody talking about, oh, well, Tyrod Taylor was garbage and all this other stuff. But Tyrod didn't turn the ball over.
Protected the ball, yeah.
And on top of that, they made the playoffs one year with Tyrod.
They did.
They hadn't been in playoffs for like 10 years.
They did.
You say what you want about Tyrod, but he didn't turn the ball over and he made smart decisions. And that's an easy way to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Now, he don't have Josh's arm strength. He definitely don't have Josh's athleticism. But I'd rather have a smart quarterback than a physically gifted one. And that's just and it's reflected in the PFF grades. The smarter quarterbacks get graded higher, and the quarterbacks that make bad decisions and have the higher rate of turnover-worthy plays, which is what Josh Allen had, they get dinged less on their grade, and it's just what it is.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing too is it's like you see that a lot of I was never like somebody that didn't like Tyrod Taylor when he was in Buffalo, but he was definitely somebody that like a lot of people didn't like.
Yeah.
But I was a fan of him. I liked his the fact that he can maneuver and he could make plays moving around with the ball. But at the same time, like we were saying, his protection of the ball was fantastic.
Exactly.
And I don't know.
He had 3-year grades of 80+.
Yeah.
I don't hear Bills Mafia ever talk about that when it comes to PFF. Yeah, 3-year grades of 80+.
I don't know if you've seen this, but his trainer, he's the same guy. His trainer is the same guy that works with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
He came out and said, Tyrod believes that he can be at that same level, and I do too. Hey. I don't believe that. I don't personally think that Tyrod's going to go out.
I don't think in Buffalo, just again, I don't
he
want to
wasn't
get
set
off
up
track,
for that.
I don't think in Buffalo, Tyrod's ever had the weapons of Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Hunter Henry.
Never.
I don't think he ever had those weapons. And just to bring back Patrick Mahomes just for a quick second, a lot of people don't give his supporting cast enough credit. The Tyreek Hills, the Travis Kelce's. Tyreek Hill's the fastest receiver in the league. Damian Williams, like Sammy Watkins, former Bill. Like all of these players that he has to throw the ball to. Sammy Watkins caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like he has weapons at his disposal. And that doesn't take away from his greatness, but you can't really see how really great someone is unless they have equally great players around them. And you see that.
And he's got one of the better coaches to coach the game, Andy Reid. I mean,
Andy Reid's probably one of the best coaches in the league.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And you're definitely going to see how good of a coach Bill Belichick is after this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Because who knows what they're going to do with their pick and with, Jared Stidham or whoever else they got. But, I think that right now the weapons that Josh Allen has is setting him up to show just how good he really is. and it's going to be a year where you have to prove that. You don't have a choice. You have to prove it.
I agree.
And if he doesn't, then it's going to be a whole world of hell coming for him.
Yeah.
From all angles.
Yep. And I couldn't have said it any better. But I wanted to get back to this mock draft, and I wanted to get my reasonings behind some of these picks. So I have Michael Ojumida, if I'm saying his name right, from Iowa.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother trying to try with that one.
The quarterback. Now, this is his draft profile, and then I'm going to give you my reasoning for why I took him here. So it says Ojumida will likely get pigeonholed into being a zone corner because he does little else, but he has some tools to work with in press as well. We've just yet to see any sort of lockdown ability. Now, the Bills pretty much run a zone-based scheme where they don't let anything go deep. They don't let any big plays happen. They play a lot of zones. So, I mean, I'm looking at him, and he's kind of an underrated corner. And so I think it'll be a guy who can first and foremost learn from Josh Norman and Trey White. Secondly, at one point in time, he may be able to overtake Levi Wallace as the second corner. I mean, I think he's a good pick here. I mean, he had an 83.4 grade this year, so on 747 snaps. So, I mean, the guy's been productive, and he's been a good player, and then he's coming from a good school. And on top of that, he's got good height. He's 6'1". So they're basically saying that, he's a smart guy, and he knows how to play zone. And that's the Bills coverage scheme right there. They play a lot of zone coverage. So why couldn't he challenge Levi in the future for, a second quarter spot? And then one more pick I wanted to see. I don't know. I got a Prince Tega. He's the tackle from.
We're not going to go for the last part.
He said, "Yeah, I ain't want to say. I can't say it. Was it one go?
Wanoho?
Yeah, Wanoho. But this is my reasoning for picking him, and I think it's a good reason. First of all, the Buffalo needs depth on their O-line still. They need to have because I don't know if they're losing Ty Nsekhe. I'm not really sure about that off the top of my head. But
I haven't heard anything about him.
Yeah, but Ty Nsekhe is 30+. And so we need to get younger. And then on top of that, we have Cody Ford. They're talking about kicking him in the guard, but I just feel you can bring Prince in to challenge Cody Ford to get better. You know what I mean? Cody Ford –
and that's what he needs right now.
Yeah, exactly. He needs somebody to push him. And you will see how good a player can be if you get somebody else behind you, like creeping on your back.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want for him. I want him to get that fire lit under him and get better and see how much better he can be and how much he can push himself to get better. Because last year, I'll just be honest, he didn't have a great year. Like, if you watched him on film, there was plenty of times defenders getting into his chest and, pushing the quarterback. I mean, having a quarterback like Josh Allen helps where he can constantly get out of a bad pocket. But when
he's losing, we're losing on his side.
They're losing. I mean, and Bills Mafia would tell you that. They were saying it to me. And I was like, Cody Ford didn't have a great year. So why not bring another tackle in to push him? There's nothing wrong with it.
And you see competition. You're going to see a prime example of healthy competition in Oakland Las Vegas, this year. They bring in Marcus Mariota, and that's going to challenge Derek Carr, and who knows if they're going to go with, somebody like Jordan Love or Hurts or something like that in the draft as well. But that's a completely different topic. But I definitely would like to see somebody to challenge Cody Ford because he does need that competition. He does need someone to say, "Hey, your job's not secure right now.
Right.
We need you to step up."
And it's just like everyone's fix is like, just kick him in the guard, just kick him in the guard, kick him in the guard. Like, nah, let him develop at right tackle. I'm not always
why not
of the mindset of just kicking everybody in the guard who sucks at tackle. Like, let him get better first. Let him get his technique better. There's many reps that I watched where his technique wasn't sound. So why not just challenge him to get better? And you bringing in the tackle, Prince. You bringing the tackle in from Auburn. That's a good school. SEC school. So, he should be coached right. You would hope that he's coached right, and he's got good size. So let's see what happens. You know what I mean? And then there's a bunch of mock drafts that have Dallas, Buffalo taking the guard from LSU, Damian Lewis, now put something out on him.
Yep.
Basically saying if he can get better in pass protection, he's a starting guard. So I just want Buffalo to have more depth. That's for these later on, just get more depth and some players that maybe could eventually start with some development behind some starters. So then, like on this next pick, I have James Prochet from
Prochet.
SMU, the wide receiver.
Yep.
And he's, like I say, he's from SMU. So obviously Cole Beasley's from SMU too. But if you ever watched any of his games or you watched him play, he's a dog. He's small.
Yeah.
And he gets it done. He's been hella productive. And he can catch that thing, and he makes spectacular catches. Why? Cole Beasley is 30 plus. Why not have James Prochet come in, learn from one of the best slot receivers probably in the last decade?
One of the best. Yeah.
What does Stephon Diggs say about him? Said he's a technician. Why not have James Prochet come, learn behind him, learn the ins and outs? And when Cole Beasley is no longer able to create separation on the level that we need him to, we got James.
Because we have him for another 3-4 years, right? So why not?
So he'll be like,
why not get somebody
35.
to learn from him?
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, another SMU guy, just like Cole Beasley. Why it makes sense. You know, it's just one of those things that it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't see why not. I saw that you had at 148 a Tanner Muse.
Yeah. So
what
Tanner
are the
Muse,
odds? Yeah. Talk to me about him a little bit, and then I got a question
Tanner
for you
Muse
as well.
is the safety from Clemson. Now, that was more of a pick because I just actually like Tanner Muse. I like what he did in the biggest games. And I remember I forgot who it was. I think it was Urban Meyer asked Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick was talking to a scout from Ohio State, and he was like, "What do you look for in a prospect?" And he was like, "I want to look for a prospect. When I look at a prospect, I want to see how they play in the biggest games." And every time I watch Tanner Muse play in a big game, he always in the right spots. He may not be the most athletically gifted guy, or he may not be the best guy on the field, but he always in the right spots, and I always see him making plays like all the time. And so I was just like, why not? So this is his draft profile right here, Tanner Muse. Realistically, Muse is a linebacker in the NFL, and he has more than enough toughness to his game to pull it off. He's still not going to be particularly fluid or a playmaker in coverage there, though. So he's not in coverage, but he can be like a special teams player for us, or he can be like a guy that's just like, I don't want to say he's an extra linebacker, but he's like a linebacker. Yeah. Maybe he can develop into like a coverage guy kind of, but based on what this is saying, he's not going to be. But you don't know what his trajectory will be, but I'm willing to take a risk on him. I think I had him in like with a 5th round or 6th round pick. I think that's a 4th round.
Yeah, it was.
I'm willing to take a risk on him as a 4th round pick just to be some type of like reprieve for Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, so everything's not on him. And then if you're coming from Clemson, that's that program, you have to be a smart player. He had an 83. Oh,
absolutely.
He had an 83 grade in 19, and then had an 82 grade in 18. So I mean, he's a smart player. He plays good from snap to snap. I mean, why not take a risk on him? One Bills guy tweeted me today and was like, "Oh, Tanner Muse sucks." Yeah, he may not be the most athletically gifted, but if you're a smart player and you could tackle, you could at least give us something in the run game. Buffalo had the worst tackling grade in the league last year, and they had the most missed tackles in the league last year. So they can only get better. They need to just add players that can tackle, and that's smart.
And I think that's something that I mean, we've said it a few times now. They can only get better in certain areas, and that's a scary thing to hear if you're everybody else. If you're looking at a team that we went 10-6, I think it was this past year. If you're saying, well, we can only get better in these areas, and it's areas like tackling, Josh Allen's deep ball, that's scary. That's scary to look at, and especially when I had our schedule pulled up because I wanted to talk about what we're thinking for next year. And I mean, you're looking at some of the elite teams in the league: Kansas City, Seattle, and then San Francisco. I want to put Tennessee as elite, but upper level.
They were in the AFC Championship, so
they were in the AFC Championship. So you're looking at teams: Tennessee, San Fran, Kansas City. The Chargers could be up there this year. Seattle, Arizona could be up there. You're going to need that kind of stuff to be stepped up, and you're going to challenge some teams like that. And I think that with how you describe that kid to me, I think that obviously Buffalo loves getting their special teams guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a lot of love for their special teams people in Buffalo. I mean, you see Reed Ferguson, the long snapper, is one of the most loved guys on the team by Bills fans. But I think how you describe him, he just sounds like a perfect guy to learn from someone like Jordan Poyer, because he could turn into that box safety or just even stick on special teams. I mean, it is either way.
And
And if he
then
wants to stick towards special teams, Micah Hyde's the perfect guy to learn from as well.
yeah. And then they got Jaquan Johnson. I know I keep talking about him, but they got Jaquan Johnson from last year. So I mean, in the future, I see that projecting to like they just signed Poyer back, if I'm not mistaken. They gave Poyer a new
extension.
deal. And Micah Hyde, if they don't give him a new deal, it's gonna be a travesty because you can make a case that he's the best player.
There's gonna be some uproar in Buffalo if Micah Hyde doesn't get a new deal.
Just for argument's sake, say they didn't sign him back. Like I feel like you would have two solid safeties, projecting two solid safeties, doing different things for you, but two solid safeties in the past. But one thing, just to get a little sidebar in about Micah and Jordan, one thing I love about them both is that they have outstanding communication on the back end.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're covering routes, the way they talk and the way they can communicate with each other and the way they know how stuff is going on between the both of them is unmatched. And it's no coincidence that Buffalo has one of the top 5 secondaries in the league because their back two, both their safeties are probably two of the smartest safeties in the league, probably besides Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. But those two, they definitely are smart. Watch them on if you ever have a chance to watch them on all 22 tape, watch how many times Poyer is covering for Hyde or Hyde is covering for Poyer on deep routes or deep crosses or deep post routes or skinny posts. Like they're always covering for each other, and that comes with film study, smarts, and communication. They definitely are
and it definitely helps that it helps a lot that they both came in the same year. I mean, we both signed them in the same year. Mike Hyde got off his contract here with Green Bay. We picked him up. Poyer got off his contract here with Cleveland. We picked him up. And, the fact that they were able to learn together and to build that chemistry together at the same time is huge. And I think, really, when you talk about their chemistry and their communication and stuff like that, the only time that I've ever really seen that, I can think of that sticks out to me in the 3 or 4 years, however long it's been that we've had them now. Yeah. Really the only thing that sticks out to me, or the only play that sticks out to me is this past year against Baltimore. On the Hayden Hurst touchdown, Jordan Poyer dropped off and he had some miscommunication. I don't even know if it was with Micah Hyde exactly. I just know that Poyer there was some miscommunication. Poyer was supposed to pick up on Hurst, but it never happened. Yeah. And then it resulted in that. I think that was actually the game-winning touchdown. Yeah. But you just don't see a lot of mistakes from them. And that's the biggest thing. Most of the time, if you're seeing mistakes from anybody, it's going to be somebody like Levi Wallace or Teron Johnson. Obviously, was Trey White. He gave up no touchdowns this past year. Had a few. His penalties were there, but the interceptions were there for him, and he wasn't giving up touchdowns. Yeah. So you're seeing it from these guys that are still developing, like Levi Wallace and Teron Johnson, and guys like that. People that are filling in too. If say Dean Marlowe's coming in for a player or whatever, which is a very rare case, but it still happens. That's when you're seeing those mistakes, and you're not seeing it from those guys that have that elite level IQ.
And a sidebar also about Trey White. Yeah. Trey White was on live. I don't know if you saw the clip where Trey White was on live with Shady. Did you see that?
McCoy. About Vontae Davis.
Let's clown Vontae Davis when he retired.
Yeah.
So
hey man, this is a young man's game. I
was dying watching that thing because I could just imagine him being
they're doing the impressions too, and it was just so good.
It was hilarious, bro. And I
you don't expect someone like Vontae Davis to have that voice.
I went back and watched the clip of when he got cut on Hard Knocks when he was with the Dolphins, and he was like, "I'm gonna call my grandma real quick."
It's just funny, man.
But on that live, Trey White was saying, he was like, he said when he came out of high school, he played quarterback and receiver. He said when he got to LSU, he had just switched to cornerback. And he was exclaiming that. He was like, I haven't even been playing the position for not even 10 plus years. He said, all the dudes ahead of me been playing the position their whole careers. He said, I just started playing corner. And I was thinking in my mind, I'm saying, that is scary. If he just now started playing corner for maybe this is third or fourth year in the league? This is third year. This is third year. This will be his fourth coming up. So if this is about to be your fourth year and you're already an all-pro corner, that's scary, bro. That's
first
scary.
team all-pro at that. Yeah, and I think, if you're adding that kind of depth to behind him and behind, Levi Wallace and now Josh Norman and Teron Johnson, I don't think that – I think you're very comfortable at that point because you know that nobody's going to be coming in for Trey White. I mean, besides a few people, and it's different because when you think of an All-Pro corner, you think of him playing the top guys in the league.
Yeah.
And he did play a lot of the top guys in the league, but at the same time, they felt comfortable enough with their opposition with Levi Wallace and whoever else was on that side, Kevin Johnson at the time, to say, Trey, you stick on your side of the field, and if they need help, go for it. But we want you on this side of the field guarding whoever's lining up in front of you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of the perfect examples of, like, him sticking on a top-tier receiver. Look at the game against Cleveland when they had, 8 straight stops at the goal line?
Yeah.
He was on OBJ every single play, forced a penalty, and then made him drop a pass. So it's like he can do it against those all-pro or all-pro wide receivers and some of the best wide receivers in the league. It's just a matter of getting the second half of their cornerback room to be able to do the same on the other side.
Now, this is my hot take. And
oh boy.
And I love Trey White, actually, and I had to sit and think about it. But this is my dissertation for why.
While I got the Trey White jersey on too.
Why you got the Trey White? I mean, I'm here to give my takes, man.
It's fine. Hey, I'm listening.
I'm here to give my takes. So this is why I was not upset when he got left off of the PFF 101 players.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset just because he made it All-Pro. He had a heck of a year. 6 interceptions, no touchdowns. He's the only player in PFF history to do that. That is a huge feat. Now, again, the great Sam Monson, everybody knows him. He came in and gave his dissertation. Why? Because he was saying that Trey gave up a lot of receptions. Now, I took all that in consideration. And so this is my take, right? So when he was named All-Pro and I put that tweet out and it got grabbed by Bills Wire and they did what they did with it, in the playoff game against DeAndre Hopkins, he did force a fumble in the first half.
Right.
But he gave up a lot of deep – I think he gave up like 2 deep passes. He gave up a deep straight when he was playing one-on-one on DeAndre. He gave up a deep crosser. Yeah, he gave up a deep crosser and Hop forced a penalty. If I'm saying you a top 5 corner in the league, that cannot happen. It can't happen. No. Sherman, I'll just say Sherman got beat by Sammy Watkins in the Super Bowl. That rarely happens. But all I'm saying is, like, if you're that guy, that can't happen. And so that's my whole reason why I can't be sick that he was left off of that list. Because in that biggest game and in the biggest moment, you can make a case that Hop's the best receiver in the league. I needed you to stop him. It doesn't matter. You're an all-pro corner. I need you to stop him, period. And he didn't do it.
There's no question.
On him. So I can't be upset.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. At the same time, I mean, you look at all of his feats that he has this past year, and you can, I mean, getting left off of the 101, you can live with that for the time being. But like you said, I mean, you have to be able to show up in the biggest games of the year, and he didn't. It's just simple as that.
Yeah. And
I mean, in the first half, yes, he did. But in the second half, he gave up a 30-yard pass. And then and then I think a few plays later, he gives up the 24 yards, and D-Hop ends up with like 4 catches for 85 or something like that, and you lose the game. Obviously, that wasn't the reason that they lost, but at the same time, you can't be giving up 50 yards on a drive to DeAndre Hopkins.
Like you said, that can't happen if you're an all-pro corner. It can't happen.
And you know, if you're gonna put him in an elite group with Richard Sherman, I would even say like Chris Harris is up there, top 5, and people like that.
Gilmore,
you can't.
All these guys,
Stephon Gilmore. They're not going to give that up. Given Stephon Gilmore gave up 160 receiving yards to Devontae Parker, but
Devontae killed him that week. I mean, I ain't never seen Devontae Parker play like that, bro.
Stephon Gilmore disappeared.
Yeah,
he wasn't even on the field.
See him play like that.
Yeah, that was a scary thing to witness if I was a Patriots fan, which I'm very glad.
It's a great thing to witness if you're a Bills fan, though.
Yes, listen, when I found that out, I nearly shed a tear.
Yeah.
That was great. Especially him being an ex-Buffalo guy. It broke my heart seeing him going to New England, but seeing him drop 160 from Devontae Parker of all people, that felt good.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get into the last pick that I made on this mock draft.
Yep.
And it was what we were talking about before we started recording. So I have, with the Bills' second to last pick, I have them taking A.J. Dillon. So you're saying to me, why do you have Buffalo taking 2 running backs in the same draft when we have Devin Singletary, Christian Wade, and did they sign Sonoris
TJ Yeldon
back? I think they let him go.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So now you would have a running back room of A.J. Dillon, Cam Akers, and Devin Singletary. And so A.J. Dillon
did not sign Perry back.
Okay, so there. So we got Christian Wade. We have Christian Wade, A.J. Dillon, T.J. Yeldon, Devin Singletary, and then Cam Akers if they were to take 2 running backs in this draft. That would be all the Bills running backs hypothetically. So this is what I was saying to you. I really feel like the Bills they don't have any veteran leadership in there. I do. Nope. I am a believer in having some veteran leadership. I think Frank Gore had a symbiotic relationship with Devin Singletary, which caused him to grow and play better. I think he did have a good effect on him. But
he didn't leave his side.
He didn't, and I love that he didn't leave his side because you got to learn from the greats. But what I will say is Buffalo needs to remake their whole running back room, and they need to just add youth.
Dogs.
Exactly. People who are just athletic and that can do certain things, different things that can help them win. Like I said at the beginning of this, when I went into this mock draft, I thought about just giving Josh Allen playmakers. There were many times Buffalo's at the goal line and Frank Gore comes in, and everybody knows that Frank Gore is getting the ball. There's no
I mean, that's not even a question.
Right. There was no mystery to the offense at all. They knew he was getting the ball. Or Devin Singletary would come in, or we knew it was like a play action pass, or it was going to be like a screen pass to him or something.
You see McKenzie come in motion, something like that.
Right. And Buffalo just needs to cut Yeldon, which it doesn't sound like they're going to do.
No.
Much to my chagrin. But they need to add – if they add Dillon and they add Cam Akers, that even though they're rookies, that is a respectable running back room where they have a bunch of people who can do different things at the running back position. And then let's say one of them one of them becomes like an all-pro or something, or they rush for 1,000 yards, or they have a good year.
They come out of nowhere and show up.
Exactly. You're not bounded to them like, well, I got to pay them this money to keep them. No, because you got Cam Akers, you got A.J. Dillon, whoever gets off, you'll have insurance behind them. Now, I know, like we said, we don't invest big resources in the running backs, but I feel like the way Buffalo was playing last year, they could benefit from having multiple backs.
And I think a big thing with having those rookie backs as well is like you have Singletary who played I don't remember how many games he really started and played majority of the games in, but it was a good majority of that second half of the season. Teams they've seen a good amount of him, but not enough to know what he's going to do and when he's going to go out for a pass, when is he going to go for a play action run. Like they don't, there's not a lot of for sure's with him. You can do a lot of different things with Singletary. And I think bringing in somebody like Akers and Dillon, there's a lot of mystery that will go into the run game. Not a lot of teams are going to know how to play against them, and all you're going to have to go off of is their college tape and what is that going to provide you in an NBA or in an NFL level.
Yeah.
Not much. You can't really base a college tape off of how you're going to defend somebody in a bigger game.
Yeah.
So I think that brings in a lot of positive situations to their offense. They can do a lot more and they can run a lot more creative things if you have, say you have a 2 running back set with Singletary and Akers, and you make something you can make something special happen.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, if you have Gore, say you have Gore and Singletary in, and Singletary's going to get the ball and Gore's going to help block. Or if it's a pass play, Gore's staying back. He's not going to go out and catch a pass. Singletary's going out there and he's running the flats.
Yeah.
It's a lot of creativity that can be added, I think, is the biggest upside with that.
Yeah. And to bring this home, speaking of creativity, I mean, I would like to see how Brian Daboll pushes this offense forward. I mean, my boy, well, not my boy, he's not my boy, but one of our data scientists, what's my name? George, he was saying like the Bills offense was like dangerously inefficient. And I remember I got into an argument again with another Bills fan. I was like, yo, look no further than the Tennessee game. I mean, they scored all field goals and won that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we get down, and then look at the playoff game.
Touchdown, but yeah.
Yeah,
the playoff game is a prime example of inefficiency of the offense. I mean,
if we could have just got one more touchdown, like we probably could have won that game. I mean, we're not going to operate off shoulda, woulda, couldas, but I'm just going to say, I mean, if the Buffalo is able to get in and convert some of those opportunities when they're in the red zone, I mean, who knows what could have happened? I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think that I think the perfect game to look at with the inefficiencies, stuff is the Houston game, because you look at it and you say, okay, Josh Allen threw 47 passes that game? It's not that he had a bad game. It's that Dable didn't call the plays correctly, in my opinion. Yeah. You're up by – you should have been up 21-0 at the end of the first half if Duke doesn't drop that touchdown in the end zone. Yeah. But you're up 16-0 at halftime, and what do? You don't run the ball. You throw it another 20 times. Yeah. And that's not how you win a playoff game, and that's not how you win games in general. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. So, I mean, and this is what I was looking for right here. Josh Allen against the Texans, he had 264 with 92 rushing yards, a 16-yard receiving touchdown. So that's a total of 372 total yards. I'm not sure what the Singletary stats are for that game, but I know they're not what they should have been. Yeah. And when you have Singletary and you're playing against one of the lower tier run defenses in the league.
You know what? Speaking of that, you know what? With Singletary grades, he was the highest graded player that week. I remember I tweeted out. He led him in run grade and receiving grade. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing his thing that game.
There's no reason that you should have Devin Singletary not run the ball against one of the lower tier run defenses in Houston. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
when you're trying to win a game
for 58 yards.
That's not enough.
Yeah, it's not.
He should have had the ball anywhere between 15 and 20 touches on the ground, not through the air.
21. They only ran the ball 29 times.
And 20 of those should have been Singletary. There's not much of an excuse for it. It wasn't good play calling. I think that, I mean, I can't really speak for. Is that Dable's first playoff game, or where else has he been?
He came from the Patriots. That definitely is his first playoff game.
Oh, okay. So I don't understand why he can't. I get that it might come to a few different things, but at the same time, you have to know this is the matchup that you have, and Singletary was shredding them. When he was getting the ball, he averaged 6 yards per carry, something like that, against Houston. So I don't. It didn't make much sense to me.
4.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, and I mean that's still enough to be saying. Right, so that's still enough to be saying, hey, get this kid the ball another 10 times, and we can lock up another 10 minutes in the second half.
Yeah. So
it's just not enough.
I mean, and so going back to A.J. Dillon, I mean, I don't know, maybe he wasn't comfortable with giving Devin Singletary that much of the low in a playoff game. Maybe he wasn't comfortable with that, or maybe he felt more comfortable giving Gore that low. But if you have an A.J. Dillon, I'm not saying he would do better, but he's more prime for that grinded out, gritty role. You know what I mean? Him and Cam Akers, they're primed and ready for that. And if you want to use Devin Singletary like in just many ways, kind of like how the Saints used Kamara, like if you want to use Devin Singletary that way, I think that would be awesome too. But see, this will be incumbent upon Brian Dable to push this offense forward. And so going to my next point, I wanted to say I am curious to see how he's going to run this offense. Now, me personally, if they're going to draft a running back, they should become a balanced offense. But the way they're talking, all these media writers and stuff like that, they're talking like they're going to throw it 50 times a game. And I would hate to see that. That is the way you win in the NFL. You have to be able to throw efficiently. But if you're going to draft a running back high and you got a stud running back in the backfield right now, you got to halfen that up. You know what I mean? Especially if Josh not playing the best or throwing interceptions, there's going to be times where you're going to have a grinded out type game. And so Buffalo needs to seriously consider taking the back that's able to grind it out. Like if you're not comfortable with giving Singletary 20-plus carries a game, I understand that because he is a smaller back and he's a shifty guy. He's not a between the tackles grinded out guy. And I love the way he runs, but it's just there's some times where you need that grinded out guy.
And I think that a lot of that media thought that, hey, they're going to throw it 50 times a game. That's going to come because of Stephon Diggs. Like, you're going to expect that when you have a wide receiver room like they do. You gotta, like, the big name is going to be, hey, they're going to throw it a ton. You got to expect it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that I don't know how to, I can't really speak for Dillon's and Akers' ball security because I don't really know much regarding that, but I think that a big part of that Houston game might have been they weren't too confident in Singletary's security, even though he really did show that after he made a mistake, he made up for it. You know what I mean? Like, there were only a few games where I can't remember which game it was, but he had a fumble, and I know they pulled him, and they had Frank Gore play the rest of the game, and it was clear that it was a teaching point, 100% for him. And I think when you have Frank Gore, you can do that because you know he's not going to put the ball on the ground at all. Yeah. But now that you don't,
that's a fair gripe about his ball security, because I remember one game he had me pissed off because he fumbled. I was like, come on, bro. Like, they were driving, and I think it was a Pittsburgh game. They was about to put it away, and he fumbled. I remember that game. He fumbled that thing bad too. So
I think that might have been the game that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so I'm like I said, going forward, just to wrap this up, I am very excited about this draft for Buffalo. I think they're going to make some good moves, and Brandon Beane, we trust. He's shown the propensity to make good decisions with the Bills, not only cap space, draft picks, all of that. So he has shown to be a very competent GM over Doug Whaley, and I love to see it. But the Bills still have in terms of a roster, they don't have that many question marks, but in terms of coaching and play calling and scheme of what they're going to do this year, I have my questions. You know what I mean? Like you said, when you got a receiver room like they have right now, it's kind of sounding like you're getting ready to throw it 50 times a game, or you're trying for that. I mean, now maybe mid-season they not where they want to be and they start going to a more run-heavy offense, then maybe that's an option. But it sounds like out of the gate they're going to start passing. So we'll see what they do. I'm going to be tuned into the draft next week, and I know you're going to tune into the draft next week.
Of course.
That's all we pretty much got at this point. You know what I mean, in quarantine.
I think there's going to be a lot of excitement with the draft too. I think.
Oh yes.
I really got a strong belief that we're going to see a trade up to that 3 spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's most likely going to be a Chargers trade up and try and snag Tua from Miami or something like that. But
hot take.
We'll see what. Hey, that's something I would love to see, to be honest with you. And then Miami gets stuck with Justin Herbert. That'd be a tough stitch for them, but we'll see what happens.
Love it. Love the pick. Well, thank you, Eddie, for doing this first Bills podcast.
For having me.
Ham and Turkey. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to let all of the viewers out there know that the Ham and Turkey is available on all podcast streaming sites. So it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from, the Ham and Turkey is. So if you could subscribe to the Ham and Turkey's YouTube channel and also subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming sites, I would really appreciate it. And we will definitely be back again. Eddie, my goal is to do one of these after the draft and then after every game. That's my goal.
And I would absolutely love that.
Yes, sir.
Nothing would make me happier.
Yes, sir. So again, I thank everyone for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode of the Ham and Turkey.